last week, they were completely rammed. They were filled up to the gunnels, they were queuing down the street. They said, you should have been here last week. I swear, you should have been here last week. Oh yeah, you should have been here last week.
Hello and welcome to the podcast entitled You Should Have Been Here Last Week. A new podcast in which myself, Steve Gribbin, and fellow comedian Paul Ricketts interview the movers and shakers of the promoting world, asking them such questions as why did you do it? Who's your favourite comic? Who's your least favourite comic? And what advice would you give to all your competitors? And this week's guest is he's very well known in the Northwest, ex-member of the Navy, he's going great guns at the moment. It's Adam Rushton.
Our guest today is Adam Rushton of Rush of Laughter. Rush of Laughter is booker, promoter, agency.
Yes, yeah, Swiss Army knife of comedy.
So, which one came first then, Adam?
Chicken or the egg?
Well, the first one that came first was a desperate need for being loved comedian. I've been running gigs for 11 years. So that came first. And then the agency's 6 years old. So yeah, so it's promoting gigs, but I did it to start with to get experience emceeing, like everyone did. But I didn't do open mic nights. I did pro nights, just with a small budget, and then kind of used it to network. And then as a comic, it was good because you got to know people who you shouldn't, get gigs with people you didn't know. And then it just kind of built from there.
What made you switch over to promote? I mean, was there any one particular reason that made you think, promotion is the way to go? Because
obviously I was a comic. I was performing up and down the country doing all that, and I got quite far in my years on the circuit. And then my mum died. Heartfelt story. I lost the love and need to be on stage. And then I was going to take a step away from it. And a few people said, why don't you be an agent? Because I always remember being in green rooms and people coming over to me going, apparently I should have my number in your phone. Because I used to help bookers out all the time and stuff. So someone said, you've got this natural ability to be able to walk in a room and get to know everyone instantly. And that's from being in the Navy. And I was like, I wouldn't be very good at it. And then I signed 6 acts who I knew, and then kind of really enjoyed it. And then, yeah. And I prefer this to being a comedian.
Wow.
You still do compare your own gigs, though, don't you? Do you do the one in Ormskirk, don't you? Last time I did it, you played there.
Yeah, I only compare my own gigs if I can't afford to pay anyone else to do it.
Right.
So if a budget's small, I'll compare it. If I can afford to put someone else in, I will. I've got no need to do it. I've got no desire to do it. But I'd rather be able to put money into better acts.
You getting a real kick out of it after doing this, the promotion?
Oh, promoting? I thought you meant comparing. No, I don't get that.
I
don't get that buzz anymore from being on stage. I don't get it anymore. From promoting and from being an agent, yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Like we just got Ignacio on live at the Apollo, and going down and being there and seeing it was amazing. Getting that phone call and going, I'm going to cheer your day up. Ig's got it, and you're like, oh, that's it. And just it was. Yeah, I love it. And for me, this ain't a job, is it? You know what I mean? I stand at the back of the room. Like tomorrow night, I've got Terry Alderton, Marcel Lucont, and Tony Law doing a gig for me. And you sort of sat there going, how's this a job? Terry's one of my heroes, and I'm getting paid. I remember getting James Acaster up, and there's queues of people trying to get tickets. And my mate paid 50 quid for one. And I turned around and went, do you know what's really going to piss you off, mate? And he went, go on. I went, I'm getting paid to watch this. And he just went, he was like, you're an arsehole? And I went, you pick your jobs, don't you? And And my job as an agency is to be in bars and taking people out for drinks and meals and stuff like that. And I'm great at that. I'm great at drinking and I'm great at eating. So, you know what I mean? I'm quite good at it.
Yeah, it's a special skill set, eating and drinking. But it's schmoozing. Is that a large part of what you would consider to be your job as an agent?
Yeah, I don't like the word schmoozing because schmoozing can be, like keep up my miss. And that's never been my.
I'm persuaded.
Yeah, that's never been my approach, and my approach has never been.
Yeah,
I'm not pushy. I'm not. I want this. I want that. I try and come at it from a different angle. I try and come at it from how I do everything as an agent. Is if I was still a comic and I had an agent, how would I want my agent to behave?
Yeah.
How would I want my agent to act? How would I want my agent to do this? So I kind of approach it in that aspect. But yeah, my major part of the job is networking and talking.
Yeah.
And I like that. I've got some real good friends now on TV and real good friends in that area where we just ring up, talk football, and that's it. We don't talk about comedy. We just ring up and just chat about. I better forget at the end and go, oh shit, yeah, can I put so and so on your program? I'm like, not booking at the moment. All right, no worries, mate.
So you're in the Navy.
Yes.
Thereby goes the song. And why did you come out of the Navy and decide to get involved in comedy?
I didn't. I came. So I got myself in a bit of trouble in the Navy. I had a fight. I was getting bullied. I had a fight. The lad was a lot more connected than I was. I did something stupid and hurt him, and then kind of got myself in a bit of trouble. So I came out, and they kind of didn't let me forget that a bit. So I kind of got drunk one night and went, do you know what? Fuck this. I've had enough of this. I'm off. So put me notice in, which you had to serve a year, but you could take it out at any point you want. They offered me a promotion. They tried to convince me to staying. And then I landed a job working on Chinook helicopters, converting them from Mark 3 down to Mark 1, but it's all secret stuff because it was special forces. And I had the clearance. And even my boss turned around and went, you get in with that company, you're made for life. And then the day I came out, the recession hit and it was all cancelled. So I ended up on the dole. The last day before I left the Navy, I met a girl who lived 20 minutes down the road from the base. She ended up moving to Leeds. I moved with her. Do you remember Mr. Benz, both of you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Spent many an unhappy hour in there.
Yeah, well, I used to drink in there. I knew the owner. I then moved to Manchester for a job. The owner had told me I could tell jokes because when we used to get drunk, I used to always recite Lee Mack jokes and stuff like that. And he said, you should have a go at this. And then I asked Big Lou. He got me on a comedy course in Manchester run by Ashley Baroda, who used to be an agent. Mr. Benz threw me on for a gong show. I won that. And then I won another gong show. And then I think I won a third gong show. And I thought, you know what, I might as well give this a go. And then I died on my arse for the next 5 gigs.
Always the way.
But still had that quest to be stared at by strangers. It's just like, that's my future. That's it. So I fell into it purely by accident. Purely.
Yeah.
I've always loved comedy. Comedy's always been my biggest passion. But yeah, just purely by accident.
There can't be many people who've come that route, though. To actually have served in the armed forces and then come out in comedy. That's quite an interesting. And presumably your skill with Chinooks might come in handy in the future.
Well, ironically, because I was an aircraft engineer in the Navy, so I was fast jet. I wasn't helicopters. So
nice.
I was fast jet. That's what you call fixed wing. So I did all my basic training on helicopters, and when I went to fast jet, but when I was on the Ark Royal, I did enough what you call second line support. So you have your squadron's front line and your second line. I did enough second line support for Chinook helicopters that I knew my way. And it was basically just taking boxes out and replacing them with another box. But because the boxes were top secret, you needed military grade. And I was authorised up to top secret because of the weapons system on the Harrier. So yeah. So that's why it would have been an easy job. It was £38 an hour 15 years ago. 12-hour days. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I ended up on £60 a month.
Welcome to
Chasing the
comedy.
dream. Chasing the dream.
Chasing the dream.
I remember
Yeah,
mates all ringing me up going, how's it going? I was going, oh, I'm just so busy, mate. I haven't got time to talk.
What do you wish you know now? You know, what sort of things do you think, oh my God, I wish I'd known when you started?
That venues are hard work.
Yeah.
I always say promoting would be easy if you didn't have to deal with venues.
Well, just put them up. Well, I suppose that's happening as well, isn't it? Pop-up venues and stuff like that.
It's not. I remember one of the first biggest gigs I ever did, and this is why I don't call myself a promoter or a booker, because I get the venues to give me a budget, and then I book the acts and I leave it down to the venues to sell. Because the reason why I do that is because I put my own gig on in a place called the Orton Institute, and we had Pat Monahan just after he once ITV showed me the funny. We sold out 200 tickets. It was so hard work running around trying to sell these tickets all the time. I had a full-time job and I was working as a comic as well. And then, and I was living in Manchester. It was in my hometown, so I had to come back and do all that. And then we put Neil Fitzmaurice on. That sold out, obviously, because it's Liverpool. Venue didn't advertise it to the 10,000 members that we had in this institute. Didn't bother advertising it once. And then looked at us and went, oh, that's a good idea. And put their own gig on the night before mine.
Oh, God.
It. So after that, I was like, I just went, I'm never taking that risk again. No, that's not for me, that. And I worked it out. I think I was getting 30p an hour for all the hours I put in.
Yeah.
Around but
there are instances of that. Well, it does happen quite a lot, doesn't it? Venues opening up just down the road from each other. It's not, it's immoral, really, isn't
it?
It is, and it's.
It isn't it? Really, I mean, it's
it's mental, isn't it? Because like me and Freddie Quinn, so you'll know Steve because you're from up round here. I've got a gig in Ormskirk. He's got a gig in Bearscough, which is like literally 10 minutes away. A mile away down the road. But where we live is people from Bearscough won't go to Ormskirk. People from Ormskirk won't go to Bearscough, despite the fact that it's 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same place. So me and Freddie have always had an understanding. I turn around to Freddie and go, I won't advertise in Bearscough, and he goes, I won't advertise in Ormskirk. And you go, there you go, done.
Yeah,
it's a big enough market for both of us. And like I always say to people, if I ever do something like, I had a gig in Leeds, I rang up Toby Jones and said, we're going to do 2 a year. Am I okay booking this? And Toby was like, yeah, don't care, mate, crack on. And then I always say at the end, I go, if you like comedy, there's regular clubs around there that you should be supporting, like, go here and go there and go that. And I think gigs can survive in the same place if you work with people. The problem is we have certain bookers who we won't mention, may have control. His mentality is just to you know what I mean? And there's no need in it. Work together.
So without going into massive details about this, I mean, the short story is that he basically muscled in on a gig that you thought you had. I mean, how do you feel about that?
So we had the gig, and then we were booking it. It was a horrendous gig. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. They came to my corporate booker and said, right, we want this. And she went down. It's in a Michelin-star restaurant in middle of London. We want it in a separate room. It started off with one act. So it started off as a corporate. So obviously she was like, right, well, if it's corporate, you want one act, then 1,500 minimum, we're going to put anyone in. And they're like, yeah, perfect. And then the day we sent the first act down, Paul F. Taylor, Paul rang us up afterwards and went, it's in the fucking restaurant. I'm like, what? And he went, it's in the restaurant, my people are eating. So we're like, oh, you're joking. So then Georgie goes back to him and goes, right, you can't do this. My corporate book is like, you can't. Yeah, don't worry, we'll sort it. So we send Pete Selwood down, and Pete rings us up and goes, I've done it in the restaurant. It was in the restaurant, mate, we're serving. And we're like, all right. So then third time it happens with Big. So then Georgie goes, right, before we put anything else in, because he came back going, can we have 6 more? So Georgie went, before we put anything else in, what you're best doing, either you do it as a comedy night or you do 2 acts. and you do it in between the servings. If you're insistent in doing it in a restaurant, you do it in between the servings. You stop, you let the act do 15 minutes, and you bring out your next one. No mention of fees, nothing. We went, brilliant, double the budget, let's get cracking. He told us if he wanted. We contact the acts. They then chased us we chased them for the confirmation, and they came back going, "Hey, we've got someone who's going to do it half price, but we're going to take your format and use it."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Okay, right." So, yeah, in total, $6,000 it took out of our pocket. But I wasn't bothered about that because it's a nightmare of a gig. But it's about when you're like, Georgie's been up and down working with him, grafting with it, and then you know what I mean. And, but also, it's one of those because one of the acts he approached and booked in, I rang and went, just to let you know, you were the one we were going to approach for this, and you were meant to be getting $1,500 for it, and they came back and went, "Oh, he's offered me $400," and I was like, "Yeah." I said, I wouldn't do it for $400, mate.
I mean, corporates are generally a nightmare, you know.
It is, but if they come back to us, this is the thing that if they come back to us and go, "Could you do it cheaper?" We would have gone, "We'll have a chat with you and see what we could make it work as."
I was going to say, who do you blame the most? Because I would say the venue seemed to be someone that you should be pointing the finger at as well here.
Oh, yeah, massively, yeah. Both as bad as each other, aren't we? But the thing is, because we kept it in house, we put it out on our social media on our Instagram, and I kind of know who follows us on our Instagram. So, you know, and you sort of go, it could have only been a few people who could have seen that. You know what I mean? I'm no Columbo, but you know,
it's like Colleen versus Rebecca Vardy all over again, isn't it? Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
You know, talking about that thing about things down the road, I've done that double between Grimsby and Hull, which is only across the bridge, but it's absolutely really weird that neither of them will ever go to the other place. And when it was in Hull, I said, "Who do you hate?" They went, "People from Grimsby." And I went over the bridge, said, "Who do you hate?" They said, "People from Hull." It's amazing. And yet they're only about 10 miles apart, aren't they? You know, geographically.
But I always remember Tom Stay saying to me when he was in Liverpool and he went, "You guys fucking freak me out, man." And I went, "Why?" And he went, "I can go 5 minutes that way here and we all speak different and they hate everyone here." Yeah. I can go 5 minutes that way and we all speak different and everyone hates everyone from here and there. And he said, "In Canada, I have to drive 3 days to get that." He said to me. And it's true, isn't it, Mo? England's
especially the Northwest. You're right. It's such tiny distances. You know, you just have to get to St Helens. It's a different world.
Yeah, but where I am in Ormskirk, we speak different to Scousers and St Helens. And then there's Wigan the other side of us. Yeah. There's Skem, which if you've never been to Skem, Paul, it's basically a social experiment where they got Scousers and Wiganers and they put them in a town, built loads of roundabouts so they couldn't get out, and then just seen what happened. And it's mental. Yeah. And they also, it's just nuts around here.
I did a gig in Skelmersdale, it is years ago, and it was really bad. And I can't remember who the promoter was, but it was in a nightclub, but it was basically in a disused warehouse. And it's one of the weirdest, scariest gigs I've ever done. The audience was just out of control. I was in the car with somebody, and it was literally at the end of the gig, start the car, put the key in the ignition, let's get the fuck out of here. Because they were just going, Argh. I
love those gigs. I love those. That's what I do miss, you know, when you turn up at a gig and all the other acts just look at you and you go, one of those, and everyone goes, "Good luck, lads." You see the compere, it's like the compere being the first one over the trench. Yeah, everyone's just like, "Oh, come on." But Jongleurs Nottingham was always like that, I thought.
Portsmouth. Jongleurs
Portsmouth. Oh, God.
That was just awful, that gig.
I've got a funny story about Portsmouth Jongleurs, though, because first time I did it, I went down and I was like, "These are my people." I was based in Portsmouth. These are my people. And I had all the other acts going, this is how you need to play it. Just going, listen, don't worry about it. I'm all right. I walked out when I'm ex-Royal Navy and 400 people booed me. And I went, shit. Every joke I did, I got booed. And then I just did 10 minutes and walked off.
Oh, my God. Portsmouth was the one where they used to, it was rough as fuck, but they used to say to you, can you just do 10 minutes?
Yeah,
and
you used to go down, didn't it?
Acts egos, I want it, but all acts would just go, yeah, I will. I'll just do 10 minutes. And we're like that. Yes, and we get paid for it. It was carnage most nights, Portsmouth Chandlers.
Yeah.
Somebody got stabbed there, and the police turned up, and the crowd wouldn't part to let the police in to deal with the stabbing. It was that bad.
Who was it? And where they comparing?
Yeah. His last words were, "What's your favourite knife?"
Apart from people poaching your gigs, what gives you the most aggravation in booking?
Comedians.
You were going to say that.
Yeah.
It's because we're all flaky bastards, aren't we?
No, it's just because not all of them. 90% of comedians are amazing, but you get that. We all know you get the 10% who are just, and it's so hard now. One, because I've still got a backlog of acts who I cancel gigs on. Who, if they apply, I immediately go right. Oh, I've got one because I don't run. I'm not a weekend club. I only run the odd ones. A lot of them as well. A lot of gigs I usually run. When they're high paid ones, the venue wants the last say on it. So you got that to thingy. Also, like with London acts, I feel guilty dragging them up for one gig. To come up and do like 150 or 200 quid. I feel guilty. So I always say to London acts, you let us know in the area. Because I remember I got you down to the Weymouth one, didn't I, Paul?
Yeah. The drive to the back end and beyond. And I enjoyed it. It turned out to be a really nice gig.
But I remember saying, and I think I've said to you, Steve, if you're ever up here, just let me know when you're up here, and if I can tag something on for you, I'll tag it on.
Yeah.
Because I'm well aware of the cost of living and all that going up, and being an agent as well. I'm like, it's not going to change your career. So you sort of like, I don't want to drag people up, and then so many acts now. It's so hard to book because you've also got to try and keep it as diverse as possible, and you've got, which is rightly so, as you should.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But when you live in the northwest, where I'm from, diversity isn't as big as it is in London, and a lot of the diverse northern comics go to London because they're going to make the money down there, and it's all these things you got to battle with, and it's just So and then you get comics who just don't. Yeah. Some who just God bless him.
You don't have to name them, but
I'll mention the name afterwards, and you'll both go, yeah. Where you just like, you're like you applied for a 10 spot the other week, and now you're applying to headline a $5,000 gig, and you just like make your mind up. What are you?
Yeah, I know that's true.
Just as an agent, I've always tried to do that. If I ever go to a booker and they go, "Who have you got to close?" the first thing I'll ask is, "Who's been your previous closers?" And if they go, well, we've got we've had Simon Brodkid, Sean Walsh and all that, then I go, well, I'm not going to put so-and-so in for that. Because one, they'll ring me up and go, why the fuck am I doing this gig? they had so-and-so last week. They're just going to stare at me. And it's just getting that right balance as well. And also, there's clients I represent who don't do my gigs because I know they won't do well in certain rooms, and it's getting that balance as well. And it's just... it's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you.
Well, this leads on to a good question then. So, could you describe your typical audience for the clubs that you book for?
That's a good question, Matt. Because obviously I've got two different types of audience. So I run a student gig, which is very studenty. Obviously, it'd be a bit weird if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then Chapel I've got is quite Radio 4. It's quite Radio 4-ish. And then I've got sports clubs like the cricket and the rugby clubs and all that, which is basically just for a bit more playful rowdy, not disruptive, but playful rowdy. So it's kind of like three demographics, because Edghill, I'm very well aware. I know what works in Edghill and what doesn't work in Edghill.
Yeah.
But I also know they want profile because the money they're paying. Unless it's last minute, I can't go in and go, oh, so-and-so's amazing. Can I get him on? Because I'll just go, well, what profile have you got? And if you go, because that's, they've got to justify it to their bosses why they're paying.
Yeah.
The money. So it's a hard one, that. But also, I've been doing it that long that, like, Tony Law annihilates it every time he does it. But I know I couldn't stick Tony Law in one of my rugby club gigs because I'll just stare at Tony, and Tony's one of my favorite. As with everyone, Tony's one of my favorite, and I know that. And it's nothing against Tony's ability at all. It's just they're not comedy savvy enough to get what Tony's doing.
I love that expression, playful rowdy. That sounds like a genre of music, doesn't it?
Well, I used to have I used to have one in Liverpool College Rugby Club. And I walked on one night after my birthday, hungover, and I just stood at the mic like that. And one of the rugby lads went, "Adam, are you hungover?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Good." And he just annihilated me for 10 minutes. Just absolutely annihilated me. And I was just stood there and I went, "Have you finished?" And we went, "Why are you bringing the first act on?" And I went, "Yeah." And he just went quiet. And I went, "Here's your first act." The first act went on. He didn't say a peep, annihilated it. I walked back on and he went, "Right, you twat," and just fucking went at me again.
That is cruelty.
Yeah, but it's because I've been doing it to them for so long. We're like, "Oh, he's knackered, he has it." And I love
they
that.
sensed a bit of weakness.
Yeah, I used to love that because they were self-policing. If you invited them in, they'll come at you and have a go playing with you. But as soon as you went to do the tea, they'll go, "Right, now's the time, shut up, down." And it was just great. It was so much fun.
Here's a good question. How do you see the future of live comedy as well, but of comedy in general? You got any predictions for how you think it's going to pan out?
People aren't going to be able to make a living solely off comedy anymore.
Yeah, well, that's already happening, isn't it?
Yeah. And my advice now to acts who I sign, if they've got a job, you can make it work with it. Keep that job for as long as you can. And it's just because, the way the world is with expenses and all that. I do think we have a certain group of acts who are going, "Oh, you don't need agents, you don't need these anymore, you can do it all yourself." And and no, I think there's ways and means. I think people are always going to have part. You can do it yourself, you can make things, but an agent's not just there to book stuff. An agent's like protect, contracts protective, and that's why a lot of production companies won't deal with acts direct. They'll always say send it through an agent because you're protected when you send it through an agent. So I think maybe the metaverse and all that stuff will start featuring more. I know we've dabbled in it, and virtual reality will start creeping in. I think there's so many different avenues. Will it go down to the route where you build up your following online and then you tour?
I think that's already happened to a certain extent, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that what's going to become the norm?
Well, the people who've done it so far perhaps haven't had the goods when they've actually gone out live. But someone will do it who will have the goods. Well, I'm going to thank you for coming on, Adam, and answering all our questions.
Thanks, Ad. That's great.
And talking about some subjects we weren't certain you were going to talk about. And thank you for being so honest with us.
That's the problem with me. I always do that. I go, I'm not going to say this. And then my mind just runs away with me and I start going, "Do you know who's a twat?" Right? I said, yeah.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, well, God bless you for that. That's what I'm glad you're
Thank you for having me on, gents. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, cheers, man.
So that was Adam Rushton. A very interesting conversation, especially about another promoter that seems to have crossed his path.
Oh, yes. Promoters at dawn. He was very good. I enjoyed that. So what have you got for us today, Paul, in your lexicon of comedy? What have you got?
So today's word is going to be in our lexicon. It is housekeeping promoters, which are promoters who apparently don't perform. But what they do is go on before an MC and do what they call the housekeeping. And at the same time, try and perform. There's certain things that certain phrases they say. One is, "Well, I'm just coming on to do a bit of housekeeping. I'm not one of the proper comedians. I've employed one of them. So I'm not the MC. The MC will be coming on
In a minute, yeah.
In a minute. So I won't be funny. There'll be no jokes from me. And then, of course, straight away, they try a little joke.
Yeah. And also, they do that thing of, I did a gig once in Banbury, and that's the exact thing happened where before the MC came on, bloke came on, and it was a proper local pub for local people. And he just proceeded to go, so, you know, and we're all going to enjoy this, aren't we, Barry? Not like last time, Barry. You know, we know what Barry's like. And everyone was, and then he worked the room for everybody, but everybody had a little story. So he created this. It was impossible to play. It was fucking hard. It was really hard. If it's too in, if it's too sort of in jokes, it's really hard to play, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the problems that a lot of people think that's what comedy is about anyway. It's about them. They think you turn up just to talk to them about them.
Maybe comedians should have one of those T-shirts printed with the ultimate kiss-off line for someone ending a relationship. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
It's not you, audience, it's me.
I mean, to talk at you, but not about you.
I've got to tell you one. This actually happened very recently at a gig, and it was in a hotel. And the woman who ran it, very nice lady, but she said, now listen, I've got to say a few words at the beginning because, the last few months, they've been fucking up, pain in the fucking arse. And she said, last month, they were shouting at me, screaming and giving me the two fingers. So I'm just going to do this. I've got to lay down the law. And we're saying, well, can't you let the compere do that? You know, sort of set the house rules. She goes, no. I feel I've got to say this. And on that message, she went on. It was like being told off by the teacher. He goes, some of you think it is amusing to talk while the acts are on the stage. And they're all sat there like this. Like she's told them up. And she goes, I will not have any bad language or disrespect to the acts. Is that clear? And everyone's going, but meanwhile, all the acts were in the kitchen going, oh, for God's sake. I think she had anger issues for the way she was treated the previous month, because she said, as some of you, and you know who you are, your behaviour last time was not acceptable. It will not be accepted this time. And I remember saying to the person next to me, how is she going to enforce this? There's no bouncers. It's just there. And she was about 5'1". What's she going to do? Oh, God.
Give him a stern talking to. I mean, because you reminded me of a charity gig I did. And this is quite a sad story. And it was for a cancer charity for a teenage girl who had recently, lost her battle against cancer. And before the gig, her mum came up and did this heartrending speech where she broke into tears, and then the audience broke into tears. And there was a big picture of the teenage girl on the stage behind, which she pointed to, and she goes, she really loved having a laugh, and I wish she could have been here to see this fantastic comedy evening. Then she goes, and now the first comic is going to come on stage to entertain you.
Oh, my God.
Which was me. And it was just like, oh, my God, what? I'm sorry, but I can't follow that. I can't suddenly go into comedy after that. She was in tears. The audience was in tears.
Oh, my God. I know. It's also funny that, as I told you that one, that one of the bad things about doing corporates is that same thing prevails where the CEO or the boss of the company thinks they're the funniest thing since sliced bread, and no one can tell them no. And I think it was Ben Norris told me he did a corporate once, and the guy had a microphone secreted backstage as they were on, and as they were doing their acts, you just go, "Well, they're not very good, are they?
Oh,
don't worry, it won't last long." And everyone had to go. I tell you what, once at the Comedian in Brighton, the Christmas gig about 5 or 6 years ago, a group of lads smuggled in one of those, the bullhorns that police use, and then they heckled everybody, get off. and they pressed the thing. I mean, admittedly, they only fired off a volley, but it was very funny when it happened. We don't want to encourage, by the way, hecklers to use klaxons and bullhorns.
No.
That's
or loud hailers.
Loud hecklers, yeah. Please put the microphone down. And back
Move away from the microphone.
Move away. Showing your hands. Clearly. Well, a mutual friend of ours, I don't know whether I should mention because it is his story, but it's very funny. He told me a great one. You know, up the creek, they can be a bit feisty. But in the old days, when Malcolm Hardy was alive, their preferred hackle was taxi. And that's how you knew you were going down badly. But a friend of mine was on stage and he was comparing. And in the third section, he comes out to compare the last act on. I think it was Rich Hall, last act. And it started going really badly. It's like they'd all had a meeting in the interval and said, right, that's enough. We don't like him anymore. And it was almost deathly silence. And a guy in the audience beckoned him over like this and then whispered into his ear, I think a taxi might be in order. And then he just sort of went, yeah, I think you're right. Said, ladies and gentlemen, Rich Hall put the mic in the stand, walked off the stage and out the front door and into a cab and just went. That is lethal, isn't it?
I have one more story. It's about a famous gig in Maidstone. So it's the stage area is a weird stage area, and it's next to a door that leads out to the beer garden. And people come through that door all the time, right in front of you. And it's also known for the fact that it's got 2 dogs and a cat that live in the pub that also sometimes just look askance at the acts and go, what the hell are you doing here? And one occasion, this bloke is dying and the dog walks across the front of the stage, stops and looks at him, then walks towards the door and just waits. And all the audience are now obsessed with the dog, not with the bloke dying. And even the bloke dying is obsessed with the dog. And then suddenly the door opens from the beer garden and the dog walks out and gets a round of applause from the audience as the dog walks out. And then the bloke sticks his head in because basically for that gig, to get the last train, you need to arrange transport. So a bloke sticks his head in and goes, cab for the comedian.
Oh, brilliant.
Because he is the cab driver for the comedian.
I mean, there's no answer to that, is there?
There isn't, apart from, it's me. Just want to put the mic down, walk straight out, and got into the cab.
Oh, that is brilliant. Yeah, straight away you just had to get off, wouldn't you? Yeah. That seems a good enough place to end, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you would like to see any more of You Should Have Been Here Last Week, please tune in. We're on all the major platforms, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. And please like and subscribe.
Yeah, ring the bell.
Be our friends.
Share. Do all the other things you could do to spread this far and wide. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
They said you should have been here last week. I swear you should have been here last